Uh, all right, that was Do Wah Diddy by Zap. I know that it's been a long time since it's been played, but you gotta play it. Gotta play it. Sometimes you gotta play it. So we're back with Doctor Walker, the dentist, who sponsors and did you create the P? You created the P22 Foundation,
Yeah, I'm
right?
the founder of P22U Foundation.
Okay, so he created the P22U Foundation. Take your kids camping, get them out the house.
They need it.
Yeah, and you know what? You know what? They need to They need to see another side of, because some children are not able to do a lot of stuff because
This is a chance for them.
parents
to be able
work. Some of them may not have the resources, money to do it. So this is a perfect opportunity to do something like that. And it's a perfect opportunity for all you businesses, all you city council people, Mayor Bibb of Cleveland, other mayors in Ohio to sponsor something like this for the children. So interesting. So we were talking on break. How did this get, interesting story on, how did this get started, Dr. Walker?
Well, when I was at Neon, I would take 100 kids skiing. I'm a great skier. I love to ski.
Now, you ain't never told me that. As long as I've been in your chair, you ain't never told me you was a skier.
I can fly out, fly.
That's how people get when they get on the radio.
Now,
I know. He's like, oh, now, boy.
What?
I can ski.
It can,
oh, wait a minute. Now, I used to go to this national program called the National Brotherhood of Skiers. And we'd have, I just went to Aspen. There was 1,200 black people out there skiing. And one of our goals is to put a black skier in the Olympics. So I've been skiing since I moved to Cleveland in 1982. I really wanted to learn to ski with all this snow up here. So when I was at Neon, they helped me to sponsor kids to take them out to Brandywine. Boston.
Oh, really?
Right. So I was out there with 100 kids. We had 2 bus loads of kids. All right.
The little chocolate babies were skiing.
They were skiing something. And Wayne Dawson did a show out there with us one time. But anyway, we were out there skiing and we were at lunch. And I'm counting heads to make sure nobody's missing. Nobody's missing. So I had a kid out there. I'm trying to think of his name was LaDon Sams. And LaDon was missing. And so I went, started looking for him on the slopes. Where's LaDon? So I went up and I looked up at the top of Brandywine Slope. And I saw this snowball coming down, skiing and falling, skiing and falling.
wow.
I can't wait for him to get down to me at the base so I could, chastise him about, where you're supposed to be. So as he got down, his lips are purple. He's got snow all down, his shirt all down everywhere. He's just freezing cold. But he had this amazing look of joy in his face. And before I could get my words out to scold him, he looked at me and said, Dr. Walker, did you see me? Did you see me? I saw you. Did you see me? I can ski.
Oh, my
I can
God.
ski. And it just hit me about the empowerment. He's doing something that white little kids probably do weekly.
Oh, yeah.
And he's out there, and he is as important. His self-esteem is as important, and at a level of anybody on the face of the earth at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
He was empowered. He was so happy. He said, I can ski. I can ski. So it took my breath away. It took all my, it captured my emotions. It gave me the reality that these kids need to be empowered. They need to believe in themselves. Like I had people believed in me when I was 14 that I decided to be a dentist, And so I opened my coat up. I got the snow out of it, and I warmed it up. And
you got to give him hot chocolate after that.
Yeah, we went in. It was lunchtime. We went in and got them all together. I saw him at a gas station a few years ago, and he came up to me. He said, Dr. Walker. And I looked at him. I said, Lil Don, that's you. And he remembered every bit of it.
Is he still skiing?
No, he doesn't ski, but, he's taking care of business. He was taking care of his family and everything. But it gave me such again, one of those moments when you realize that it's important. Mm-hmm. It's important to be involved in their lives, to empower kids, not to scold them, not to put them down. We have to forgive them and empower them and give them hope raise their self-esteem, let them dream, let them become somebody. Just the same thing that I received, at 14, with my, and I didn't mention this with my father. My father and my parents were, and my mother, they were extremely important in my life to give me that base. My daddy was a high school principal and an electrician.
Really?
We would wire big buildings and homes and everything all summer. I didn't know I was working until I was 10, though.
He got free labor.
You got free labor out of them.
Because I was little enough to carry that wire into the house.
Right.
Come get this wire. I was just small enough. And one of the stories about my dad was that we were on the rooftop, right?
Uh-huh.
And it was freezing cold. My mama had an operation. We didn't have, in Nashville then, we didn't have any Medicaid or nothing. Daddy had to pay that bill.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Dundry called Daddy. Mr. Dundry said, well, they called him Red Walker. They said, Red, I need you to wire my sign outside because I got to have a grand opening, but you got to get it wired up so it lights up. So it was freezing cold in February. So I went, Daddy grabbed me. I was small enough to get through that ceiling and pull that wire over the roof and everything. So we were on the roof.
Right.
And I started crying. I'm about 7, 8 years old. And I started crying because it was so cold. I said, Daddy, can't we come tomorrow morning when the sun's up to do this? And he looked at me, he said, Joe, he called me Jojo. Jojo, Mama's sick. We need this money tonight. We need to take home food. We need to pay these bills. And I need you. And I looked up at him. In that moment, I realized that I needed to work and be responsible. He made me feel like I was on top of the world, that I'm bringing food home. And that's important. He empowered me on that roof. He empowered me. He made me feel like I was just somebody.
We don't have that anymore.
God, we don't have that
That's
anymore.
missing.
He about to, you know what? He about to make me start to cry. It's like knowing you being 7 years old, and it's like he didn't yell at you. He was like, "You got to do this because I said so," or something like that. He just says, "You know what? We need this. You are important. You are part of the wheel, pretty much." That empowers a child to do great things, pretty much. And you've done a great thing with this, and it's. And the way you tell that story is like you were still 7 years old at that time.
Yeah, I was young. One of my earliest memories, I may have been in the third, second grade, something like that.
All right. So, wow. So
That's how you know it was impactful, if you could still remember it.
Yeah.
And he's in his 60 plus, and you still remember it like it was yesterday. That was life altering.
Right. Children will remember what you do for them and what you don't do for them. My son is still trying to get me to raise baby ducks in my apartment. Jalen wanted me to we went to a place where they sold baby ducks, and he said, "Daddy, I want you to get the baby ducks." And I'm like, I don't think I can have poultry in my apartment very much, But I took him out there because I took him to a petting zoo when he was here. So it's like,
what didn't y'all do though?
I mean,
y'all did everything.
Just about. I wanted to to be impactful, and it was like a couple of times like, "Hey, get up." He didn't want to go anywhere. He wanted to stay in and play on my laptop, which
we had to get our kids away from that.
Right.
The internet has really kind of ruined the minds of the people. We've gotten too complacent and too comfortable and too laxed in that space.
Not just children either. Some adults.
It's adults as well.
Another thing about when I was 14, and I think this story I like to tell is important because children need to have a friend. They need to have an adult friend that they can trust, that they can go to and talk about anything without the fear of being punished or without the fear of being embarrassed.
They can be transparent.
So one time I was with my dad and I did something wrong. I'm on the couch. And I said, shoot, I ain't getting punished for this time. So I bolted out the back door. He couldn't catch me. I was 14. He couldn't catch me. So I ran across the street, called my mom and told her where I was. Daddy was steaming mad. So I called her back in an hour. I said, "Can I come home now, Daddy? Calm down." So I came home. And as soon as I walked in there, something came in my mind. And I thank God for this. I said, "Daddy, before you talk to me, I'm going to talk to you." So I said, "Daddy, if I come to you and tell you what I did wrong, you don't have to discover it or find out in any other way. You're going to find out from me. But you can't, if I do it, you can't punish me for it. You can teach me everything you need to teach me, but you can't punish me for it if I bring it to you because I don't want to be scared to bring it to you."
See, he already negotiating.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring
children do that when they know that.
So I stuck my hand out and said, would you do that for me? And he said, yeah. And at that moment, I took my daddy's hand. He became my best friend for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And I could tell him anything on the face of the earth, all of my good, bad, and otherwise stories that I needed to get a deeper understanding about.
It's called a teacher. It's like your father, you was giving it's a teachable moment at that particular time. So you have to have that teachable moment with your children, because instead of just, trying to punish them and do things like that, you have to be like, listen, this is the reason why I'm doing this. This is the reason why you're going to do this. I want to get Jalen the experiences that, get him on those things. So it is what it is.
So let me tie it into camp. We've had kids to come to us because they're in a safe environment. And then after a couple of days, and we like loving them and talking to them, they come to us and just pour their heart out. Because some of these kids have to be hard. They can't expose their soft side, per se. And they come in and tell us some stories
that'll just rock your world.
Right.
Yeah, the things they've been dealing with, and they could not.
They didn't have anybody to talk to.
They had nobody to talk to, and they couldn't show weakness. And then we give them an environment that they can just disrobe those emotions.
They can be a child.
Right.
Yeah. They can be.
Because some of them cannot, because of the community they're in and the responsibilities that they have.
Yeah.
As far as they have to watch their other siblings. And it could be 3, 4, 5. I know one girl that was 14, 15 years old that had to watch. She had like 5 other siblings, and she had to watch them, while their parents were working or out doing whatever. And it's like, she don't have any children. She's like, I watch my brothers and sisters because I don't want no kids.
And that's usually what happens.
Yeah. So and then you have children that are only children who feel like that they're not, loved enough by their parents. So
I never felt that way. I'm an only child. I'm my mother's only baby.
I'm talking about like mother and father only child.
Well, I have siblings. I have sisters on my dad.
Right.
So, but I'm my mom's only baby.
Right.
And you can't put a label on who does what, who's this. Like,
right.
Child, it's just the
the children.
Quality of the parent, the quality of the village, the quality of the school system.
I had a village.
All of us need to be involved in raising our kids. We can't be scared of them.
I used to tell my kids all the time, call 696 kid, call them. Call them.
I go up to kids and they sagging.
I double dog daddy, call them.
I am not here.
I go up to kids that sagging and I say, now listen, you want to see my tiny whiteys? If not, pull your pants up.
Oh, no, we can't.
I pull them up real quick.
No.
What is that? No, they wasn't ready. So like Kevin Hart was here, though. Yeah, that's one of his lines.
Some kids that people are intimidated to approach.
Well, what these kids, a lot of our children are out of control. And, you see a lot of 13, 14-year-old males, they're out here committing adult crimes and
right.
And they're coming from a household where they have to be the man of the house.
Woman of the house.
Yeah. A lot of our kids, we put a lot on these children nowadays. Thank God that my children, they were never like that. So, my ex-husband and I, we raised our children to the best of our ability. Nobody gave us a handbook. But, our children now will tell you, we had a good childhood. I'm learning things now from my kids that they were doing when I was at work and my ex-husband was at work. I'm learning things like, Mommy, we used to do this and all. And when we hear your car pulling in the driveway, be like, she here, go sit down somewhere. And then they would break stuff in the house. Like, who wrote this?
That's every kid that was born in the 80s.
Right. The 70s.
All the shit in the house.
Yeah.
Grandmama's lamp, all kinds of shit.
They broke my giraffe. They broke the nose off of my giraffe. I said, who did this?
We were jumping on Mom and Daddy's bed like trampoline and then fell on the radio and broke the radio. We tried to put it back together.
I know one day my daughter and her best friend she was spending the night and they would go out. My daughter's, one of her bedroom windows was on the roof. They would go out on the roof. So one day I seen them out there And I caught them before they could get back inside. I went in there and I locked the window. Stay out there. On the roof. They had to call their brother. They was like, Mommy, they locked us out. Come open the window. I was like, yeah, I did it on purpose. But it was that, it was that kind of stuff. My kids were able to be children. They were able to be kids. Sometimes I think they got too much. But, hey, it is what it is. Can't change it. They're responsible adults now. They have their own families. They're living their own lives. They still get on my damn nerves. But anywho, they're mine. They're mine. They're all mine.
Well,
they were able to experience a lot that some kids could only imagine.
Never do. And some children don't. And if you don't know what's outside of your environment, outside of your community, some people never do.
Yeah, my kids, they took vacations twice a year.
Mm.
We took them, if we didn't go to Mississippi, we would go to Washington or, different places like that. They would actually go and see a lot of stuff.
One of our next moves is that we have some things that we're trying to get going since COVID knocked us down for a while. Like we'd like to create the P22 youth choir.
Really?
And
Christmas caroling?
Praise.
Yes.
We've done that.
Yes.
We went to the nursing homes and did Christian caroling, and
yes.
So Sharina, one of the backup singers for the old days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
She took the kids out and she could really sing. And
yep.
Right.
We went over to the nursing home a couple of times, and those people really enjoyed us singing to them, to see those young kids singing.
Yep.
Which is the most precious thing to have.
Right, exactly. When I was in the choir at John Marshall High School, shout out to my choir teacher, Willie H. Dykes. I was a sophomore. I was a baritone. Yeah, I sang in the choir in high school.
You always up in here singing?
Yeah, that's why. So the week of Christmas, before Christmas break, what we did was before we had our annual concert at John Marshall High School, and that was the last day before we went on Christmas break. We went to West Park Kiwanis. We went down to National City, sang with it before it became PNC, National City Choir. We went to other places, pretty much getting out of school, traveling to these other places around the east side and the west side and downtown. And that was one of the best experiences that I had. And I did this all the way up. I lettered in choir. I have my Marshall varsity letter somewhere in mothballs. And it was one of the greatest experiences that I had traveling, along with playing sports and stuff like that. I played basketball a little bit. I was, JV. Hey. You an accident lie. But what you're doing is giving them an experience in the summertime where they can be surrounded by all kinds of crazy stuff like, guns, drugs, hopelessness from the adults, that, just despair, and you're giving them another way. And it's important to sponsor these children, these young adults, so they can go do some stuff as youth. So when they grow up, they know what the world is like.
Because the world is not going to be nice to them. The world is not going to be nice to our children. Not our little black and brown babies anyway.
Exactly. So, what is the biggest thing you want to do as far as the P22?
Well, I don't continue to grow P22. I'd like for it to be a national organization and set a model of what we can do in every city to help our kids, particularly children who don't have that exposure, who need that community, the village, to do the best job they can. To provide them hope, leadership, and teach them how to make it out here, to develop their skills.
Social skills, definitely.
Yeah, all these kids have gifts. We all have gifts. We need to identify those gifts and have them to develop those gifts. Mm-hmm. And so,
our children today, they lack social skills. Because they're so accustomed to being on a keyboard,
right?
Behind a monitor. So we don't, even adults, some adults have lost social skills. It's amazing how many adults I run across that don't have social skills.
And some people want to rather text and pick up the phone
I
and
hate
talk
that.
to you. Won't talk to you. They rather text, and then they can say any mean thing they want to say on the text.
Yeah, and you know, people, we misconstrue text messages because it's when we get it, it's how we interpret it, and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way." Well, then maybe you should have picked up the phone and called. How about that?
Maybe you need to hear my voice.
Yeah,
in the tone and texture of my voice.
Mm-hmm. We got to get back to, because the way that things were, there was something wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to advance into technology, and we tried to, you know, do all this extra stuff, and it really took away a lot of the human interaction.
Right.
And that's why you just people just don't know how to coexist.
Right. I think what technology was is you were supposed to implement it in what you were doing at that time to improve it instead
And
of
it
didn't. It took over what you did before then. It was supposed to improve the way of life instead of trying to help wreck it. And I think the problem is that when you do something like that, that's why you have to have, it's called balance. You have to have balance of the technology and the ways of doing things. You have to have balance. That's the problem.
People don't even know how to have balance.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Humanity is in a very bad way. It really is. It's in a very bad way.
Yeah, but Dr. Walker, again, I'm going to begin. I thank you. Before we go to the next break, is there anything that you want to say to the future campers of P22 U Foundation or future members?
I've had, since we've done this for 10 of the last 12 years, we had some young people that, have really done well and come back to camp, who call me and express their appreciation for what we try to do with them, the relationships. Because relationships truly matter. Mm-hmm. They truly matter, because everything needs to come from a foundation of trust,
right?
So that kids not only trust others, but trust themselves instead of being, engaging their pride and ego, and there's no trust and there's no true development of your personality. That's why I love HBCUs, because you can develop yourself at an HBCU versus a big white school where you don't know people don't like you because of the color of your skin or your character. Mm-hmm. So when I went to Meharry and Tennessee State, that was an opportunity for me to shape my personality, to find out what's good and what's not so good, how I need to work on me.
Right.
So we need those environments and those venues, such that a kid can recognize what's good, bad, and otherwise, and who they are. So they have a target to grow to, so they can develop themselves. And so we want to develop programs that structure that along with our mission statement to serve, to serve as a catalyst for the spiritual development of youth through Christian-based programs, so that they can become somebody.
Right. So the website is P22, the number 22, YOUTHFOUNDATION.com, P22UFoundation.com. You want to sponsor a camp, but you just want to donate. Just to donate. You don't have to sponsor nobody. Just don't. You just accept all. Help. Just to help.
Send a child
to
camp.
Right.
Even if you give 10, 15, $20 and $25, just give, because, it can help. It helps.
Right.
Every little bit helps.
Right. Speaking of jamming, Stevie Wonder jamming with this master blaster of a dentist right here that's helping us, helping the youth out. So we'll be right back on the Headline Eye on WNRE1081.com, where we get on your nerves. Peace.
Man, this is fun.
Huh?